XRP just did something it has not done in almost 2 years, and almost nobody is talking about it. While Bitcoin was busy sliding below $60,000, XRP quietly clawed back above $1.12, gaining nearly 8% in 7 days and beating the entire crypto market's average gain by more than double. If you have been sleeping on this coin, the next few minutes are going to change how you look at your portfolio. Let's start with the number that should have every XRP holder sitting up straight. XRP is trading around $1.12, up close to 8% in the last 7 days, while the broader crypto market only managed a 3% gain in the same period. That is not a small gap. That is XRP beating the market by more than double. But here is where it gets interesting. This rally is happening during a holiday weekend, when trading volume usually dries up and prices go nowhere. Instead, XRP ETFs pulled in millions of fresh dollars right before the Independence Day weekend even started. Institutional money did not take the weekend off. While retail traders were planning barbecues, funds were quietly loading up on XRP. And this is not a one-week story. Zoom out and you will see something even bigger. Spot XRP ETFs have now pulled in close to $1.5 billion since launch. That is real, sustained capital, not a random pump from a Telegram group. This is the kind of number that shows up when institutions are building a position, not gambling on a meme. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. If institutions are buying, why does the price still look weak on the chart? Why has XRP fallen so far from its highs? Here is the uncomfortable truth. XRP is still more than 70% below the high it hit last year. This has been one of the most brutal drawdowns in XRP's history. The token dropped more than a quarter in value in the first 3 months of this year, and lost even more in the following quarter, after already crashing hard in the final months of last year. If you bought the top, this year has been painful. I will not sugarcoat that for you. But pain in the market is usually the setup for the next move, and there is a pattern here that long-term XRP holders need to understand right now. Historically, whenever XRP has recorded consecutive losing quarters like this, the very next quarter has always delivered a recovery. Every single time this has happened in over a decade of trading. On average, that recovery quarter has brought gains of well over 15%. We are now sitting in that exact setup. Back-to-back losing quarters followed by an early bounce right now. History does not repeat perfectly, but this pattern is impossible to ignore if you have been trading XRP for any length of time. There is also something happening beneath the surface that most traders are completely missing because they are only staring at the price chart. Active addresses on the XRP network jumped over 70% in just 2 weeks, while leveraged bets in the derivatives market have collapsed to their lowest level in about a year. Translation: the speculators and the gamblers are getting flushed out of the market, while real users and real wallets are showing up in bigger numbers. That is usually a sign of a healthier, more stable base forming underneath a coin, even while the price looks shaky on the surface. Now let's talk about sentiment, because this is where it gets almost contrarian. Sentiment around XRP has just hit its weakest reading in about 9 months. In plain English, almost nobody is bullish on XRP right now. Fear is everywhere, and plenty of holders are giving up and selling at a loss. But here is the twist that separates smart money from panicked money. XRP's strongest rebounds have historically started exactly when the crowd was this checked out and this fearful. When everyone stops caring, that is usually exactly when the biggest moves begin. Maximum fear, minimum attention, and quietly rising ETF inflows, all happening at the same time. That combination has preceded major rallies before. Now for the story every single XRP holder has been waiting years to hear about, and the reason this coin has been stuck in legal limbo for so long. There is a piece of legislation working its way through the United States government that would permanently classify XRP as a commodity under federal law, instead of leaving its legal status hanging in uncertainty the way it has for years. This single bill is the one catalyst that could genuinely reprice XRP overnight, because right now the entire market is trading XRP as if regulatory risk could return at any moment. Here is the update, and it is a mixed bag. The target date to get this bill signed into law was this holiday, but that deadline has now been missed. The Senate has already left for recess and will not return for over a week, with another bill scheduled ahead of it in the queue. That pushes the realistic timeline for a floor vote to late July or even early August. So if you were expecting fireworks this week, the government just handed you a delay instead. But do not let that discourage you, because we have already seen exactly how the market reacts when this bill moves even slightly. Just a few weeks ago, XRP jumped close to 5% in a single day on nothing more than a committee vote to advance the bill. That was not the bill passing. That was not even a floor vote. That was a preliminary committee step, and it was enough to move the price nearly 5% in 24 hours. Now imagine what a full Senate passage does. Imagine what a presidential signature does. This is the single biggest sleeping catalyst in the entire XRP market right now, and it is sitting on a calendar delay, not a rejection. While we wait on Washington, Ripple's own engineers are not sitting still. A senior figure at Ripple has proposed a new mechanism designed to defend the XRP ledger's native exchange against bots that front-run and squeeze regular traders on every transaction. If you do not know what that means, here is the simple version. Certain bots detect your trade before it happens and squeeze extra profit out of you by trading just ahead of and just behind your transaction. This upgrade is designed to close that loophole and make the XRP ledger's decentralized exchange safer and fairer for everyday users and larger institutional players alike. This matters more than people realize, because institutions will not build serious infrastructure on a chain where their transactions can be exploited by bots in real time. On top of that, there is quiet but steady progress on the utility side of the network. Ripple's own stablecoin has already driven over $2 billion in settlement volume directly on the XRP ledger. That is not speculation. That is real transactional volume moving through the network. Proof that this ledger is being used for actual settlement activity, not just held and traded on exchanges. So where does this leave us heading into the rest of the month? On the technical side, the picture is genuinely balanced on a knife's edge. XRP needs to reclaim and hold the $1.18 to $1.20 zone to break its year-long downtrend. Lose the $1 level, and the next real support is not until around 80 cents. That is the range that matters. That is the battlefield. But zoom out past the day-to-day candles, and the bigger picture tells a different story. Institutional money quietly flowing in during a holiday weekend, a seasonal pattern that has never failed to deliver a recovery after back-to-back down quarters. Active addresses surging while leveraged bets get flushed out. Sentiment at its most fearful point in 9 months, historically the exact moment before XRP's strongest rebounds. And a piece of legislation that already proved it can move the price nearly 5% on a single committee vote, still sitting on the table, delayed but not dead. XRP is not just another coin bouncing around a chart. Right now it sits at the intersection of a seasonal pattern, an institutional inflow trend, and a regulatory decision that Washington has only postponed, not canceled. The next few weeks will decide whether this becomes the moment XRP holders have been waiting years for, or just another false start in a brutal year. Either way, you now know exactly what to watch. The $1 floor, the $1.18 breakout level, and a Senate calendar that reopens in a matter of days with XRP's biggest catalyst still waiting in line.